Chosen one, listen closely. That persistent sensation that you are suddenly standing entirely alone is not a mistake. You look around and realize the people you used to rely on are just gone. Your texts go unanswered, the plans fall through. And it feels like your entire social foundation is collapsing right in front of your eyes. You are not losing your mind. That heavy silence is not proof that you are broken or impossible to love. What if this painful isolation has actually been a protective shield? Stay with me, because the pattern behind this sudden emptiness explains exactly what is happening to your life right now. You have been wondering why everything is falling apart all at once. You try to hold on to the relationships that once felt so safe and familiar, but every time you reach out, the distance only seems to grow wider. It hurts to feel like you are being left behind. You replay conversations in your head and wonder what you did wrong. You ask yourself if you are too intense or too difficult to understand, but the truth is much deeper than any text message or disagreement. The universe is completely rearranging your environment. This is what we call the divine quarantine. It is a period of mandatory separation designed to clear your frequency. You see, when you carry a heavy calling, you cannot bring everyone with you into the next chapter. The people who were meant for your history cannot always survive the atmosphere of your destiny. They start to fall away. The misunderstandings multiply. And before you know it, you are sitting in a quiet room, feeling utterly abandoned. But this is not an abandonment. This is an intentional clearing. We need to talk about why this quarantine is happening right now. You are in a crucial transition phase where your energy is incredibly vulnerable. If you stay surrounded by people who constantly drain your spirit, you will never hear the quiet instructions meant only for you. The universe had to force this separation today. You were simply too loyal to walk away on your own. You kept trying to save connections that were quietly destroying your peace. So heaven stepped in. The bridges were burned to keep you from walking back to a place you no longer belong. Think about the exhaustion you felt just a few months ago. You were constantly bending your own boundaries just to keep the peace with friends who never really understood you. You shrank yourself to fit into their boxes. You stayed quiet when you should have spoken up. And every time you did that, a small part of your spirit felt suffocated. The sudden collapse of these friendships is the universe finally saying enough is enough. You are being pulled out of the noise. The noise of other people can be incredibly loud when you are trying to heal. Their opinions cloud your judgment, their fears become your fears, and their limitations try to build a cage around your potential. When you are constantly reacting to the emotional demands of your friends, you have no energy left to build your true life. The divine quarantine stops all of that interference immediately. It cuts the cords. It forces you to sit with your own thoughts until you remember who you actually are. This is not a punishment for being different. It is a necessary preparation for the authority you are about to carry. But I know the silence feels incredibly heavy right now. The human side of you just wants to feel normal and accepted by the crowd. You want the easy weekends and the casual conversations back. But your spirit knows that those casual conversations were starving your soul. You were never meant to live a surface-level life, and you cannot complete a massive spiritual assignment while distracted by petty drama. You might still be grieving the loss of these connections today. It is completely normal to mourn the people who used to make you laugh and feel included, but you must realize that you are mourning an illusion. You are missing a version of them that only existed because you were willing to stay small. The moment you started to grow, the illusion shattered. The quarantine is forcing you to face reality without the comfort of false attachments. This is the only way to build a foundation that will not crumble under intense pressure. Before this message ends, you will understand exactly why this isolation is actually your greatest advantage. You will learn the specific signs that prove this quarantine is actively preparing you for a massive awakening. And you will discover what you need to do next. Stay with me. And if the silence has felt heavy lately, take 1 second to like this message to show you are ready for clarity. Because the first piece of the puzzle is already hiding in plain sight, but it is hiding where you least expect it. Why did the people you trusted most suddenly turn their backs? The transition happened so fast that it left you completely breathless. One day you were an essential part of the group, and the very next day you were pushed to the outside. You watch them continue their daily lives entirely without you, and it feels like a heavy weight is pressing directly on your chest while you sit alone and wonder what is terribly wrong with you. You spend hours alone analyzing every single past conversation. You look for the exact moment you made a mistake. Did you accidentally say something highly offensive to them? The human mind constantly tries to find a logical reason for this painful rejection because the sudden uncertainty is absolutely maddening. You desperately want to reach out and fix the gap. You want to apologize for things you did not even do, because the loneliness is simply too painful to bear alone. Stop looking for your imaginary flaw right now. This is where the pattern begins to clearly reveal itself. The reason they walked away has absolutely nothing to do with your personality, but it has everything to do with your current frequency. You finally started doing the necessary and deep internal work. You started healing your old wounds and refusing to participate in toxic gossip. Your personal energy signature fundamentally and permanently shifted into a new gear. When your frequency rises, you become a mirror to the people around you. You did not even have to say a single word. Your new energy silently exposed their refusal to grow, and that reality made them uncomfortable in your presence. People who are committed to staying exactly the same cannot tolerate someone who is actively evolving. They felt the invisible energetic gap rapidly widening between you, and they pulled away to protect their own fragile comfort zones. Think back to the last few times you were together. You probably noticed that the conversations felt incredibly hollow. You tried to engage with them, but you felt like you were speaking a different language to a solid brick wall. The jokes they laughed at suddenly felt bitter or meaningless to you. You smiled on the outside just to be polite and agreeable, but internally you felt completely drained and exhausted by their heavy presence. Now listen closely to this next crucial piece of truth. This exhaustion was the first physical signal of the divine quarantine. Your body recognized the severe frequency mismatch long before your logical mind could ever accept it. You were losing energy. You subconsciously tried to power the relationship for both of you, while they gave nothing back. You were actively dragging heavy and resistant dead weight, and the universe saw that you were slowly drowning. It is an undeniable law of spiritual physics. You cannot forcefully bind two completely conflicting frequencies together forever. Eventually, the severe energetic tension causes a massive and painful snap. Their sudden departure was just the universe cutting a cord that was already fraying because your connection was no longer sustainable. They did not reject you because you somehow lack value. They walked away because your spiritual light was simply too blinding for their current season. But knowing this logic does not immediately erase the pain. The human experience of this separation is still brutal. You are sitting alone in the uncomfortable void between who you used to be and who you are quickly becoming today. It feels like a waiting room with absolutely no windows. You currently feel completely unseen by the surrounding world. You want to reach out and pull them back just to feel a sense of belonging again. You tried to lower your vibration just to make them feel comfortable again. You pretended to care about petty drama that frankly no longer matters to your soul. You hid your growth because you did not want to intimidate them, but that choice ultimately broke your own heart. How did that fake performance actually feel in your body? It probably felt like trying to force your feet into shoes that are 3 sizes too small. Your awakening spirit actively and violently rejected the compromise. It gave you severe anxiety and restless nights. It made your chest incredibly tight and your stomach drop every single time you tried to play small. You cannot unsee the truth you have found, and once your frequency elevates to a chosen level, going backward is no longer an option. The universe will never allow you to betray your own awakening just to keep a comfortable friend. This painful isolation is your undeniable physical proof. It is the absolute clearest signal that your internal transformation is entirely real and permanent. If you were truly broken, you would have stayed happily in that toxic cycle and accepted the tiny crumbs they generously offered. But your ancient soul demanded so much more, and that grand demand required a completely empty room so you could finally breathe freely. You are standing right in the middle of a massive spiritual operation. The people leaving are simply the debris being cleared from your intended path. But this painful social collapse is only the surface of what is really happening behind the scenes. There is a much deeper and more powerful mechanism at work, and once you see how the universe uses this empty space, your entire perspective will change. The isolation is not the end of your story. You are standing in an empty space today, but this quiet void is not a punishment. It is a highly strategic move by the universe. When you are constantly surrounded by the loud opinions of others, your own internal voice gets completely drowned out. You simply cannot hear your deep intuition when everyone else is constantly shouting around you. Every single day, you absorbed their doubts. You adopted their limiting beliefs as your own. You took on their heavy emotional baggage because you naturally want to heal the people you love. But that beautiful empathy became your biggest vulnerability. The constant noise of their demands created a thick fog over your own spiritual compass. This is exactly why the divine quarantine was absolutely necessary. The universe had to drastically collapse your social circle. It had to permanently strip away that heavy fog. It is a radical form of spiritual detoxification. Heaven is actively removing every single voice that distracts you from your ultimate calling. You are being forced into silence. I want you to take a deep breath. You need to truly hear this next truth. You were not rejected because you lack value. You were not abandoned because you are somehow flawed. You were intentionally separated to protect the rare gift you carry. The isolation you feel right now is actually the heavy armor of divine insulation. You are entirely safe here. Before this quarantine, you made decisions based on their reactions. You walked on eggshells to avoid triggering their deep insecurities. You sacrificed your own massive potential just to keep the group dynamic stable and calm. But the universe has a much higher purpose for your life. And that massive purpose requires your absolute and undivided attention. Now that the room is empty, something beautiful is starting to happen. You are beginning to hear your own raw thoughts again. The constant anxiety of pleasing everyone else is slowly melting away. Without their constant validation, you are finally learning how to safely validate yourself. This is the exact mechanism of true spiritual empowerment. You are essentially rebuilding your entire identity from the ground up. You are learning what you actually like. You are discovering what you truly believe deep inside. The divine quarantine gives you the perfect sterile environment to construct this new reality. No one is here to project their toxic limitations onto your fresh canvas. You have complete creative control. Think about the immense relief of no longer performing for them. You do not have to force a fake smile. You do not have to pretend to care about things that completely drain you. The silence might feel intimidating at first, but it is also incredibly peaceful. You are finally off the heavy stage. You can just sit in the quiet and breathe. Your soul was profoundly exhausted from carrying unaligned relationships. The sudden ending of those bonds was the universe stepping in to grant you rest. You did not fail at friendship. You simply graduated from a classroom that had absolutely nothing left to teach you. The painful lesson is completely over. The heavy books are finally closed. Nature teaches us a very powerful lesson about necessary isolation. A seed must sit in the dark dirt before it can ever break the surface. The darkness is not a grave for the tiny seed. It is the exact incubator required for massive growth. You are in that quiet incubator right now. The universe is feeding your deep roots while the surface looks completely bare. When you finally understand this mechanism, the panic slowly begins to fade. The desperate urge to text them completely disappears. You stop trying to fix the broken bridges. You stop viewing your empty calendar as a tragic loss and start seeing it as a rare luxury. You are being given the supreme gift of uninterrupted time to finally heal. You are preparing for your next level of existence. But as you settle into this peaceful insulation, you will start to notice something strange. The people who left will not always leave quietly. When they realize they can no longer access your energy, their behavior often changes. And the way they react to your new boundaries will reveal the absolute truth. You are settling into the quiet. But suddenly the silence is broken by a strange echo from the past. The people who walked away start to behave in very confusing ways. They might send a vague text message, or they might casually provoke a familiar reaction from you just to see what happens. They do not want to rebuild a genuine connection. They just want to check if they still have access to your energy. This is where the hidden opposition completely exposes itself. When you were playing small, they praised your loyalty. When you were constantly available to fix their problems, they called you a great friend. But the moment you finally stopped supplying that emotional labor, their narrative completely changed. You are suddenly labeled as distant or selfish. They accuse you of changing for the worse because you refuse to obey their rules. Do not rush to defend yourself against these baseless accusations. This resistance is actually a brilliant confirmation that your new boundaries are working perfectly. They are deeply upset because the old control tactics no longer yield any results. They push your buttons, and they eagerly wait for the familiar explosion of anxiety to take over your mind. They expect you to desperately apologize. But you do something that absolutely terrifies them. You remain completely still. Your silence is the ultimate weapon against hidden manipulation. When you refuse to argue, you strip away their leverage. They realize that they can no longer use your empathy as a convenient tool for their own comfort. This realization often makes them act out in passive-aggressive ways. They might subtly exclude you from group events, and they might whisper about your absence to mutual acquaintances. They want you to feel the rejection deeply, so you finally surrender. But you must hold your ground in this exact moment. If you break the quarantine to defend your reputation, you step right back into their chaotic frequency. You do not owe anyone a lengthy presentation explaining your personal growth. Your evolution is not up for a public debate. Let them misunderstand you. Let them tell whatever version of the story makes them the hero. Their limited perception has absolutely no power over your divine assignment. This opposition can feel incredibly personal and hurtful. You might feel a surge of intense anger when you realize how transactional those relationships truly were. It hurts to see that their love was always conditional upon your quiet compliance. You gave them your authentic heart, and they only wanted a convenient supporting character for their own life movie. Allow yourself to feel that sharp indignation. It is a holy anger that clears your vision. That anger is the fire burning away your lingering attachments. It destroys the false guilt that kept you chained to their expectations. You finally see the hidden trap that was keeping you perpetually exhausted. The universe allowed this painful exposure so you would never be tempted to walk backward into that cage again. You are not a victim of their petty games. You are an observer who finally cracked the hidden code. Every time they try to provoke you, they only prove exactly why the separation was mandated in the first place. You can look at their behavior now without absorbing their toxic poison. You are watching the old patterns play out, but you are no longer a participant in the drama. You have officially stepped off the battlefield, and your refusal to fight is the exact move that secures your ultimate victory. You are becoming untriggerable. This level of emotional discipline is exactly what the divine quarantine was designed to produce. But this newfound strength is only the beginning of your transformation. The opposition you are facing right now is actually serving a much higher purpose that you cannot fully see yet. What looks like a series of painful social attacks is actually forging something incredible inside of you. You are being tested to see if you can hold your frequency when the pressure increases. Because if you can stand firm against the misunderstanding of your friends, you can stand firm against anything. The universe is watching your beautiful restraint, and this restraint is about to become your greatest shield. You are not just surviving this lonely transition, you are being armed for what comes next. You have survived the initial shock of the separation. You watched the opposition expose itself, and you chose the high road of silence. Now the true magic of the quarantine begins to unfold. What initially felt like a brutal isolation is slowly revealing itself to be a masterful layer of divine protection. The walls of this empty room are not keeping you trapped. They are keeping the destructive noise completely out. Think about the sheer amount of energy you have reclaimed over these past few months. Before the quarantine, your energy was constantly leaking out into a dozen different toxic directions. You were always stressed about someone else's unpredictable mood. You were always trying to fix a crisis that was not yours to solve. That constant energetic hemorrhage left you completely depleted. But now that those cords are cut, the energy is finally flowing back into your own spirit. You are being deeply insulated so you can securely rebuild your core. The universe essentially wrapped you in a thick, spiritual blanket. The attacks bounce off. The whispers do not penetrate your peace. You are sitting in the eye of the storm. The chaos might still be swirling in the distance, but it cannot touch the sacred ground where you now stand. This is the profound safety of being chosen and set apart. This protection is not just about keeping bad people away. It is also about preserving your focus for the massive download of clarity that is coming. When your energy is no longer scattered, your spiritual reception becomes incredibly sharp. You start noticing synchronicities that you would have completely missed before. You hear your intuition speaking with absolute authority. You are finally tuning into the exact frequency of your divine assignment. The people who left were acting as heavy static on your spiritual radio. They scrambled the signal. The universe had to remove the static so you could hear the crystal clear instructions. You are not lonely. You are simply on an exclusive frequency. You are being trained to operate at a higher level of consciousness. And that intense training requires absolute solitude. It requires a singular focus that casual friendships simply cannot survive. Do not mistake this quiet period for stagnation. The surface of your life might look incredibly still right now, but underneath, you are experiencing a massive tectonic shift. You are shedding lifetimes of conditioning. You are breaking generational curses of people-pleasing and self-betrayal. This kind of monumental healing takes an enormous amount of spiritual power. The universe isolated you so you could use every single drop of your energy for this internal reconstruction. You are being forged in the quiet fire. And as you sit in this protection, you begin to realize a beautiful truth. You do not actually need their constant validation to survive. You are entirely whole on your own. The desperate fear of abandonment that used to control your choices has completely evaporated. You are discovering a fierce independence that cannot be manipulated by anyone. You have found your true anchor. This is the ultimate vindication. You did not have to argue your case. You did not have to prove your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You simply stepped into the quarantine and allowed the universe to do the heavy lifting. The protection itself is the proof that you were always right to trust your inner voice. You are being guarded because what you carry is immensely valuable. You are a carrier of a new frequency. The isolation was never meant to be your permanent home. It is a temporary incubator. And as you heal in this protected space, you will start to feel a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The heavy feeling of loss is being replaced by a thrilling sense of anticipation. You are approaching the edge of the quarantine. The healing phase is nearly complete, and the next chapter is about to begin. But how do you know when the quarantine is finally lifting? There are specific, undeniable signs that indicate the protective walls are starting to open. You are about to cross a massive threshold. The empty space is ready to be filled, but it will not be filled with the same old noise. You must recognize the signals before you step out. You have finally rested in the quiet protection. The heavy emotional bleeding of the past has finally stopped. Now, the atmosphere is beginning to shift again. You can actually feel a subtle hum of electricity returning to your daily life. You are standing directly on the sacred threshold. The divine quarantine is not meant to last forever, because you have a massive assignment to fulfill, and you need room to expand. There are clear signs that the doors of this isolation are preparing to unlock. The very first sign is a profound internal neutrality. Think about the people who recently caused you so much pain. Just a few months ago, their names would make your chest tighten with anxiety. You would spiral into deep frustration and endless questioning. But today, you think of them, and you feel absolutely nothing. The emotional hook has been completely removed from your spirit. You can observe their erratic behavior without absorbing their toxic chaos, and that is a massive victory for your healing soul. This deep detachment is not coldness or bitterness. It is the purest form of spiritual mastery. You have officially reclaimed your own emotional sovereignty. When the old familiar triggers no longer produce a dramatic reaction, you know the deep healing phase is successfully complete. You do not wish them any harm today. You simply do not want their energy anywhere near your new foundation. Your absolute peace has become far more valuable than their temporary validation. The second sign is a massive shift in your actual desires. The things you used to desperately chase now seem completely uninteresting to you. You used to want a huge circle of friends and a booked social calendar. Now you crave deep authenticity and profound stillness above everything else. You would rather sit alone in silence than participate in a meaningless conversation because your energy is too precious to waste. This new standard is actively filtering your future reality. You are no longer willing to shrink yourself just to fit into an uncomfortable space. Your soul is demanding genuine alignment from everyone. This means you are finally ready to attract connections that actually match your elevated frequency. The universe had to completely change your spiritual appetite before it could safely serve you the massive main course you deserve. You would instantly reject the massive blessings coming your way if your daily desires remain small. The third sign is the sudden return of your physical and mental energy. During the deepest part of the quarantine, you probably felt incredibly tired. Your body was using all its resources to heal the invisible wounds. But now the heavy brain fog is rapidly lifting from your weary mind. You wake up feeling surprisingly clear and remarkably focused on your goals. The energy that used to drain away into toxic relationships is now entirely yours to command, and you feel stronger than ever. You are stepping into a season of extraordinary personal power. The spiritual armor you built in the dark is now integrating perfectly. You walk completely differently through the world today. You speak with a calm authority that commands immediate respect without raising your voice. People can instinctively feel the solid boundaries radiating from your strong presence. You are no longer a fragile victim of circumstance. You are a grounded leader who survived the absolute worst. This new presence will naturally repel anyone trying to manipulate you again. You are a fully awakened force of nature, but standing at this threshold requires extreme discernment. The heavy doors are finally opening, but you must not rush out blindly just because you miss the familiar noise. You cannot invite the old characters into this brand new chapter. The quarantine cleansed your environment for a very specific reason. If you compromise your high standards now, you will instantly recreate the cycle. You are being called to step forward with absolute intention. Every word you speak and every connection you allow must be carefully weighed. The universe is trusting you with a very high level of influence, and that influence requires a person who is not easily swayed by popular opinion, because the mission is far too important. You have passed the grueling tests of the isolation period. Now, you must prove that you can maintain your frequency in the open world. The anticipation you feel right now is completely justified. A major shift is undeniably underway in your life. The empty space is about to be filled with opportunities and aligned souls. But before you take that final step out of the quarantine, There is one crucial revelation you must deeply understand. You need to know the ultimate reason why you specifically were chosen for this intense isolation. It was never just about protecting you from toxic friends. It was never just about giving you a peaceful break from the heavy drama. There is a cosmic blueprint that is about to be fully unveiled. The universe emptied your hands to prepare you for something massive. You needed the strength to actually carry it. The true nature of your assignment is finally coming into focus. What I am about to tell you is the absolute core of your journey. It is the ultimate answer to why your life had to fall apart so spectacularly. Please prepare your heart for the absolute truth, because once you understand the magnitude of what you carry, you will never look at your past the same way again. The ultimate revelation of your life is finally here. Now the full meaning becomes absolutely clear. Heaven did not orchestrate this quarantine to punish you for trusting the wrong people. It did not tear your social life apart because you were unworthy of simple companionship. The universe forced this massive separation because you are a critical anchor for a completely new frequency on this earth. And a true anchor cannot be tied to a sinking ship. You are a chosen one. You are not just a kind person who naturally absorbs the pain of others. You are a designated carrier of spiritual authority. Every single season that violently stripped away your false approval was actually teaching you where your real foundation lives. Every heavy door that abruptly slammed in your face forced you to stop building your identity on shifting sand. You were literally being rebuilt for war. Look back at the absolute devastation of your social circles. You thought you were losing friends, but you were actually losing the heavy chains that kept you stagnant. The universe knew that your massive empathy would forever tie you to their endless dysfunction. You would have spent the rest of your life playing the exhausted therapist to people who never actually wanted to heal. The quarantine was the only way to surgically remove that specific spiritual disease. This is the ultimate revelation that changes everything. You were not being prepared to simply become a slightly better or happier version of your old self. You were being aggressively trained to carry a weight of purpose that your previous patterns could absolutely never hold. The sheer magnitude of your upcoming assignment required a completely sterilized environment. The old noise had to die so the new instructions could be clearly heard. You are being activated right now. The shift is not beginning because the surrounding world suddenly decided to recognize your hidden value. It is beginning because you finally no longer need the world's permission to recognize what has already changed within you. You have reclaimed your divine agency from the ashes of those broken relationships. That deep certainty inside your chest is significantly quieter than hype, but it is infinitely stronger than any lingering doubt. You survived the intense pressure of being completely misunderstood, and in that dark isolation, you developed the one crucial capability you need for the future. You developed the power of supreme restraint. You learned how to observe the chaotic behavior of others without handing over your own power. You learned that true spiritual authority does not shout to be heard. It simply stands in the undeniable truth and watches the illusions shatter. This new authority is incredibly potent. You are no longer moving through the world as a fragile victim of toxic people. You are walking forward as a heavily protected guardian of light. The people who left your life were simply not equipped to handle the voltage of your current frequency. Their sudden departure was the absolute highest form of divine protection you could have ever asked for. You are safe. You have passed the grueling test of the quarantine. You proved that you would rather sit alone in uncomfortable truth than be comfortably surrounded by a comforting lie. And because you successfully maintained your high standards in the dark, the universe is preparing to massively reward you in the light. The doors of this isolation are officially opening, but the landscape outside has fundamentally changed because you have fundamentally changed. You will never again apologize for the intense light you carry. You will never again shrink your spirit just to make an unhealed person feel slightly better about their own stagnation. You have graduated from the painful school of people-pleasing. Your divine quarantine successfully insulated you, protected you, and ultimately activated the hidden power that was always sleeping inside of you. This is not the end of your beautiful story. It is the glorious beginning of your actual reign. The profound peace you feel right now is the undeniable proof that the healing worked. You are finally ready to step out of the empty room and into the massive purpose you were born to fulfill. But you must take this final step with absolute intention. You need to know exactly how to walk out of this isolation and claim the reality that is waiting for you today. Take a deep breath and gently notice what is different now. The story no longer ends with what they did or how much you lost in the chaotic process. It ends with what you can finally choose today. You can protect your newfound peace without apologizing for it. You can release the old painful patterns without hating the people who taught them to you, and you can move forward without needing every single detail explained. You are standing safely in the quiet aftermath of a massive spiritual shift. The crushing pressure has finally lifted from your tired shoulders. You do not have to rebuild the burning bridges that heaven intentionally destroyed. You do not have to send a long text message to explain your sudden silence. Your silence is already doing the heavy lifting for you. It is establishing a perimeter of absolute respect around your vital energy. So what do you actually do with this sacred isolation right now? You use it to practice your new standards. You do not rush blindly back into the loud noise just to escape the temporary discomfort of being entirely alone. You sit in the absolute stillness until the silence feels like a warm and familiar embrace. You let the quarantine finish its holy work in your soul. Because the beautiful connections coming next will require this exact upgraded version of you. What matters now is not chasing another dramatic promise or searching for a random sign. What matters is what you deliberately choose to carry forward from this exact moment. You must remember that this painful separation was never a tragic loss. It was a brilliant divine intervention. The universe forcefully emptied your hands so you could finally grasp the authority that was always meant for you. Do not betray that beautiful protection by looking backward at a closed door. Take one quiet and deliberate step today to confirm your new reality. Write down the toxic pattern you finally recognized in those old friendships. Name the specific boundary it requires going forward, and make a firm internal decision about how you will fiercely protect your peace when the next test arrives. You are not being asked to fight a massive battle today. You are simply being asked to peacefully agree with the deep healing that has already occurred inside of you. You entered this message seeing the sudden loss of friends as a cruel and unusual punishment, but now you see it clearly as a divine quarantine. You are no longer moving through the world as a rejected outsider looking for validation. You are stepping forward as an awakened, chosen one. You are absolutely clear about your firm boundaries, and you are finally ready for truly aligned connections that nourish your spirit instead of draining it. This is the undeniable mark of your massive spiritual graduation. You no longer use your past pain to prove your worth to anyone. You use it to grow in sharp discernment and profound personal responsibility. The people who truly belong in your next beautiful chapter will never require you to shrink your brilliant light. They will celebrate the exact high frequency that the old crowd tried to actively suppress and control. Now that you see the quarantine as deep protection, you must choose carefully who you carry forward into the open space. If this message gave language to your silent experience, do not leave the insight as a passing emotion. Subscribe to stay with this safe community for the next part of the journey. And please share this specific message with someone who is sitting in the heavy silence right now. They might desperately need to hear that their painful isolation is actually a magnificent insulation. We are actively building a powerful community of light right here. We do not demand perfection from each other, but we do demand absolute authenticity and mutual respect. You are not alone on this narrow path. You never truly were. You were just waiting for the static to clear so you could find your real tribe. The divine quarantine has successfully served its holy purpose. The heavy iron doors are opening wide. Take a deep breath of the fresh air. Step out into the warm light, chosen one, and confidently claim the beautiful life you have been prepared to lead.